more than 2,000 years ago in the ancient land of Egypt. A woman rose to power whose name would echo through history for centuries. Her name was Cleopatra. She was not just a queen famous for beauty, as many legends claim, but a brilliant ruler, a skilled diplomat, and one of the most powerful women the ancient world had ever seen. Cleopatra lived during a time when the world was changing rapidly and powerful empires were fighting for control. Egypt was one of the richest kingdoms in the world, but it was also surrounded by enemies and political threats. To survive in such a dangerous time required intelligence, courage, and strategy. And Cleopatra possessed all of these qualities. Cleopatra VII was born in 69 BC in the city of Alexandria, the capital of Egypt. She belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that had ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries. This dynasty began after the death of Alexander the Great, when one of his generals, Ptolemy I, took control of Egypt and declared himself king. Even though the Ptolemies ruled Egypt, they were originally Greek and often kept themselves separate from the native Egyptian population. However, Cleopatra was different from many of her ancestors. She was the first in her family to learn the Egyptian language and actively connect with the Egyptian people. She was highly educated and studied philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, politics, and languages. Historians believe she could speak several languages fluently, including Egyptian, Greek, and possibly Hebrew and Latin. This made her an incredibly skilled diplomat who could communicate with leaders and ambassadors from different cultures without interpreters. Cleopatra's childhood was filled with luxury but also with political tension. The royal palace in Alexandria was a place of wealth and learning, home to the famous Library of Alexandria, which was one of the greatest centers of knowledge in the ancient world. However, behind the palace walls, the Ptolemaic family was known for ruthless power struggles. Brothers fought sisters, children betrayed parents, and many members of the royal family were assassinated in the fight for the throne. Cleopatra grew up watching these dangerous political games, and this environment helped shape her into a clever and determined leader. Her father, Ptolemy XII, ruled Egypt during a difficult time. Egypt had become increasingly dependent on the powerful Roman Republic, which was expanding its influence across the Mediterranean. Rome's leaders often interfered in Egyptian politics, and Ptolemy XII relied heavily on Roman support to keep his throne. When Cleopatra was still young, her father was forced to flee Egypt after a rebellion broke out. During this time, Cleopatra witnessed how unstable power could be and learned how important alliances were in politics. When Ptolemy XII died in 51 BC, Cleopatra became queen at the age of about 18. According to Egyptian tradition, she was supposed to rule together with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only about 10 years old. The two siblings were also expected to marry, which was common in the Ptolemaic dynasty in order to keep royal power within the family. At first, Cleopatra tried to rule Egypt effectively, but the young king's advisors soon began to challenge her authority. Powerful ministers and generals in the royal court wanted to control the government themselves, and they saw Cleopatra as an obstacle to their ambitions. Within a few years, the political struggle became so intense that Cleopatra was forced to flee Egypt. Her brother's supporters took control of Alexandria and declared him the sole ruler. Cleopatra found herself in exile, far from the throne that was rightfully hers. But she did not give up. Instead, she began gathering supporters and building a plan to reclaim her kingdom. She knew that if she wanted to defeat her rivals, she would need the support of the most powerful force in the Mediterranean world. Rome at this time, Rome itself, was in the middle of a massive civil war. Two of Rome's greatest leaders, Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great, were fighting for control of the Roman Republic. After being defeated by Caesar's forces, Pompey fled to Egypt, hoping to find support from Ptolemy XIII. However, the young king's advisors believed they could win favor with Caesar by betraying Pompey. When Pompey arrived in Egypt, he was assassinated, and his head was presented to Caesar as a gift. Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria shortly afterward, but instead of being pleased by Pompey's murder, he was shocked and angered by the act. Caesar believed that the killing of a Roman leader in such a dishonorable way was unacceptable. He decided to intervene in Egypt's political conflict and demanded that Cleopatra and her brother settle their dispute. Cleopatra realized that this was her chance to regain power, but reaching Caesar was not easy because her enemies controlled the city. According to one famous story recorded by historians, Cleopatra secretly entered the palace where Caesar was staying by hiding inside a rolled carpet or sack that was carried into his chambers. When the carpet was unrolled, Cleopatra emerged and introduced herself to the Roman leader. Whether the exact details of this story are true or partly legendary, it illustrates Cleopatra's boldness and intelligence. She knew that making a dramatic and unforgettable entrance could help win Caesar's support. Cleopatra's charm, intelligence, and political skill impressed Julius Caesar. He saw her as a capable ruler who could stabilize Egypt and maintain a strong alliance with Rome. With Caesar's backing, Cleopatra challenged the forces of her brother Ptolemy XIII. A fierce conflict broke out in Alexandria, known as the Alexandrian War. After months of fighting, Caesar's army defeated the opposing forces. Ptolemy XIII died while trying to escape across the Nile River, and Cleopatra was restored to the throne. Cleopatra now ruled Egypt again, though officially she shared power with another younger brother, Ptolemy XIV. However, she held the real authority. With Caesar's support, her position became stronger than ever before. During this time, Cleopatra and Julius Caesar developed a close relationship. Many historians believe their partnership was both political and romantic. Cleopatra later gave birth to a son named Ptolemy XV, who was widely believed to be Caesar's child. The boy was often called Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. Cleopatra even traveled to Rome and lived there for some time as Caesar's honored guest. Her presence in the city caused great fascination among the Romans. She represented the wealth, mystery, and culture of Egypt, which many Romans found exotic and intriguing. However, not everyone in Rome welcomed her influence. Some senators feared that Caesar was becoming too powerful, and that his relationship with Cleopatra might lead him to declare himself king. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated by a group of Roman senators who believed they were saving the Republic from dictatorship. Caesar's death created chaos in Rome and left Cleopatra without her most powerful ally. She quickly returned to Egypt, where she focused on securing her throne and protecting her son's claim to power. In the years that followed, Rome again became divided by civil war. Several powerful leaders competed for control, including Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. Mark Antony eventually became the ruler of Rome's eastern territories, which included regions near Egypt. In 41 BC, Antony summoned Cleopatra to meet him in the city of Tyre. He wanted to question her loyalty and ensure that Egypt would support his political plans. Cleopatra understood that this meeting was extremely important. She arrived in Tarsus in magnificent style, sailing up the river on a luxurious barge decorated with gold and purple sails. She dressed as the goddess Isis, presenting herself not only as a queen but also as a divine figure. Her dramatic entrance amazed everyone who witnessed it, including Mark Antony. The two leaders soon formed a strong alliance. Like Caesar before him, Antony was impressed by Cleopatra's intelligence, confidence, and charm. Their relationship quickly became both political and romantic. Cleopatra supported Antony with Egypt's enormous wealth and resources, while Antony protected Egypt from its enemies and strengthened Cleopatra's position as ruler. Over the next several years, Cleopatra and Antony worked together to build power in the eastern Mediterranean. They had 3 children together and spent long periods living in Alexandria. Cleopatra dreamed of restoring Egypt's ancient glory and creating a powerful empire that could rival Rome itself. Antony also began distributing territories in the east to Cleopatra and their children, which angered many people in Rome. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir, used this situation to turn public opinion against Antony. He claimed that Antony had become corrupted by Cleopatra and was betraying Roman interests. Roman propaganda portrayed Cleopatra as a dangerous foreign queen who was manipulating Antony in order to control Rome. The political tension between Antony and Octavian eventually led to a final war. In 31 BC, their armies and navies met in a decisive battle near the Greek coast at Actium. The battle was intense and chaotic, but Octavian's forces ultimately gained the advantage. Antony and Cleopatra's fleet was defeated, forcing them to retreat back to Egypt. After their defeat, their situation became desperate. Octavian's armies advanced toward Egypt, determined to end the conflict once and for all. In 30 BC, Octavian invaded Alexandria. As the Roman forces closed in, Antony believed that Cleopatra had already taken her own life, and, overcome with despair, he fell on his sword. Mortally wounded, he was brought to Cleopatra, where he died in her arms. Cleopatra realized that she would soon be captured.